Yes, so let's start from where we left in the last class. So we're talking about Hadoop, right? So we have got a good base for what is big data analytics, and now we are proceeding further with understanding Hadoop, right? So we started with a story, right, to understand Hadoop, and I hope all of you remember this story, right? So I'll just quickly revise it. So there is a person called Bob who opened a small restaurant in the city, right? And he hired one cook, right? And there was a food shelf from where the cook gets ingredients, right? So this, if we compare with our traditional system, right, we have a processing and we have data storage, right? So these are two crucial parts of any computer system: processing and the storage part, right? So cook is considered to be our processor, and food shelf is considered to be our data storage, right? Then initially, because the restaurant was new, right, Bob used to get only 2 orders per hour, and there was a single cook, and he used to manage 2 orders very easily, right? So it was a happy situation. Similarly, if we talk about our traditional scenario, the data was generated in quite steady rate, and that too in a very structured manner, right? So our processor was okay to handle or to process such structured data which is coming at a constant rate. But then the scenario got changed. Bob started taking orders online, and now there were 10 orders per hour, right? And there was a single cook who was facing lot of issues fulfilling these orders, as he was the only person who has to cook all 10 orders, right? So now it was not so happy situation for a cook. Similarly, with the new era, the digital data that gets generated increased at an alarming rate, right? And that too, it was the major category was belonging to unstructured category only. Now, our traditional processor was again not in a happy situation to deal with such heterogeneous genius data, right? So, what is the issue here? The issue here is too many orders per hour now we are getting. So, what is the simple solution? Hire multiple cooks, right? So, same thing is done. Bob now hired multiple cook, but the food shelf still remains the single one, right? So what was happening is there is increase in processing power, right? But the data becomes a bottleneck, right? So the same scenario is there. We increased cores, processor cores, right? But then talking about our data, which is a shared one, a kind of data warehouse, there was a lot of network traffic which was getting generated, right? So that this was not a very good solution. So what is the problem now? Now the problem is food shelf becomes the bottleneck. Now imagine a case, you have a single data warehouse which is located at, let's say, Bombay location, and then from the entire world people are accessing the Bombay server. So of course the server will go down, right? So the server becomes a bottleneck here. So what is the solution then? So the solution is distributed and parallel approach. So instead of having a centralized data, if we can distribute it across the network, then probably we can achieve what we want, right? So this was the effective solution. So probably till now we have discussed in the last class, and now we are going to talk about the effective solution, right? So I hope all of you are with me till now. Yes, great. Okay, so let's proceed further and talk about the solution, right? So the effective solution is, let me take a different example. Let's say we are making pasta here, right? So we have multiple cooks now, and each of them have a separate food shelf, right? So imagine these two blue cook are making pasta, and these two black color cook, they are making sauce for the pasta, right? So each of the cook has its independent food shelf, as you can see here, right? Independent food shelf is there for each one of them, right? So they don't have to worry, whatever they want they can just get it from their own food shelf. So now food shelf is not a bottleneck. The second issue is solved, and we have multiple cooks, so there is no processing issue as well. So that first issue is also resolved. Now how it works? So there are two cooks who are working on pasta, and there are two cooks who are making sauce. There will be a head cook as well. And what is the duty of this head cook? So the duty of this head cook is to combine pasta and sauce, right? So they will just give final touching to any order, right? So basically what they do is they get the basic things from the cook who are working under him or her, and then their output they are going to process, combine the results together, and then they are going to serve the final order, right? So the effective solution, if we consider, if we try to map this with the computer system, so basically, of course, we are going to see this in terms of framework, but I just wanted to ask if this concept is clear, the solution is clear to everyone. See, now you have multiple food shelf, not a single food shelf. What does this mean? This means that we don't have centralized data, we have distributed data now. Agree? And we have different cooks working on this data, so they will produce some output which will be utilized as an input by the head cook, and this head cook will be combining the results and will solve the final order, right? So this seems to be a very happy scenario. All of them have only enough work to do, and they don't have any constraints now. So is it a happy scenario or not? Yes, right? So this is the happy scenario, right? So now Bob has solved the issue that he was facing, right? Now the problem is, can we have such framework? Can we have something like this in our computer system? So the answer is we need a framework to do so. So we want this, right? We want to achieve this, but in computer system, can we have this? So yes, there is a framework to do so, right? So the answer is Apache Hadoop, right? So this is what Apache Hadoop is doing, and this is how it is working actually, right? So let's try to understand Apache Hadoop now, how it is working. So what is Hadoop? Hadoop is a framework that allows us to store and process large data sets in parallel and distributed fashion, right? So this is very important, right? It allows us to do so in parallel and distributed fashion, right? So if we talk about Hadoop, if we talk about any computer system, which are the two important components? We just now talked about it. Which are the two important components for any computer system? processing and storage, exactly. Right. Similarly, Hadoop also has its own processing framework and its own storage as well. So here you can see this elephant is the icon for Hadoop, right? So HDFS is the storage for Hadoop, right? It is a distributed file system and specially um, designed and developed for Hadoop. So Hadoop is a distributed file system. Sorry, HDFS is a distributed file system. And then we have something called as MapReduce, right? So you may have noticed I wrote here map and reduce, right? So what map does and what reduce does, how it does, we'll talk about it soon, right? But what is a map reduce? Map reduce is a processing framework. So basically, Hadoop is nothing but a combination of processing and storage only. So here the storage is HDFS. It stands for Hadoop Distributed File System, and the processing framework is a MapReduce. So what MapReduce does, it fetches or it works on the distributed data, processes the distributed data, right? So this is about MapReduce. So basically, Hadoop follows a master-slave architecture, right? So now we will be more focused on Hadoop and its core components and its architecture, right? So to explain this architecture, let me tell you another story, right? So now the story is imagine there is a software company and there is a project manager who is handling multiple projects. What is the duty of a project manager? We have learned this in software engineering, I guess. No, project management, I don't know. The syllabus has changed. You have learned it or not? Don't remember. But in general, you should be knowing, right? What is the duty of a project manager? Yes. So, in general, if I put it in the simple terms, the duty of a project manager is to complete a project within the deadline, right? To complete the project within the deadline given, uh, whatever resources are given to him or her, right? He has to utilize the resources effectively and within the deadline, he has to complete the project on time. This is the main duty of a project manager, right? So, as a project manager, this is the duty. So now here there is a project manager and he has been given 4 projects, right? So project A, B, C, and D, there are 4 projects, right? There are some teams working under this project manager, and these teams are supervised by their team leader. So we have again 4 team leaders here. John, who is managing the team of a project A. So basically, John takes care of everything for project A. James is the second person who takes care of everything related to project B. So project B is allocated to James, project C is allocated to Bob, and project D is allocated to Alice. Right? So this is the metadata. Metadata is what? Data about data, right? So this is there with the project manager that John has been allocated project A, James project B, Bob project C, and Alice project D. So this is the metadata, right? Now, someday, let's say Bob asked for a leave for few days. So what will happen? as a project manager, will you be worried or not? Because project um, C is entirely given to Bob, and now Bob is suddenly, let's say, he has met with an accident and he cannot come for 15 days or 10 days. As a project manager, what will happen to you? You'll be worried for project C, yes, because you are the responsible. Whole and sole responsibility is with you to finish all these four projects. Now, if let's say Bob is not coming for 10 days, of course, no one else knows about project C. So there is a chance that project C gets delayed, right? So what to do? You as a project manager, you are totally worried. So normal project manager, what he or she would, he would ask some other guy to look upon project C. So let's say project manager is going to this John and saying, will say that John, will you also take care of project C with A? John, of course, will say, oh, I already have a lot of work, right? And would say, I cannot, because nobody would like to do anything without a reward, right? So John would always consider this as an extra work and would hesitate taking another project because he is already overburdened. Same is a scenario with James and Alice, and nobody is ready to take this project now. Nobody is ready to take care of this project now. So what to do? So being a smart project manager, right? What we would do is project manager came with a scheme. So the scheme is he would go to different team leaders and would say that let's say this is John. He would go to John and he would say, John, can you take some another project as a backup project? What do we mean by backup project? Backup project is a hello. Yes, am I audible? There is electricity issue here, so probably my presentation is gone. Anyways, I am from connected from a second device, so let me just continue with the story. So yes, so John is asked for project C as a backup project, right? So what is a backup project? Backup project is like you just have to take it as a backup. So if the project is in trouble, then only you will have to take over. Otherwise, you may not even have to work on it. And if you take some another project as a backup project, you will be given some incentives from the company. So now John will be thinking that, oh, I just have to take one more project as a backup project, and I'm getting incentives, I'm getting more salary, and probably I may not even have to work on it. So let's take it. Now, isn't it a good deal for John? John, what do you say? So considering this, John says, okay, then I will think on it. So now project manager does the same thing with all the other team leaders. The same thing is done, right? So he would go to all the team leaders and would tell to every one of them that you take one backup project. Of course, one is the main project on which you will be working, and another one is a backup project. So in case if something goes wrong with that backup project, you will have to take over. right? If nothing goes wrong, then only you will be given the incentive. So this seems to be a good deal to each of the team leader, and they are ready to do so, right? So now each team leader has two projects, right? The one is the main project on which they are working, and the second one is the backup project, right? On which they will only have to work if that project is in trouble. Otherwise, they may not even have to work on it. And still, for taking a backup project, they will be getting some incentives, right? So, is this a happy scenario for a project manager? What do you say? Is this a happy scenario or not? Absolutely, yes, right? So, because project manager now is not at all worried because he has been given four projects and four TLs, four team leaders, and all four team leaders are working now. If any one of them is in trouble, right? He already has a backup plan for it. And what is the backup plan? That the projects are given as a backup project to other TLs already, right? So if the project is in trouble, the other one will take over and will be working on it, right? So as a project manager, he is so much relaxed now, right? So this is a master slave architecture that Hadoop is working upon. So if I try to put this into Hadoop um, terminology, you can consider project manager as being a master node. I repeat, you can consider project manager as being a master node, and you can consider all the team leaders who are actually working upon it as a data nodes. Is that clear to every one of you? Right. So if for some reason the data node fails, then we have another data node, right, who will take over. So as a master, you just want work to be done on time, right? So this is distributed architecture. Now, because I don't have presentation to show because I am joined from a mobile right now, there is no electricity at college as of now. So, before I proceed further, I just want to clarify one thing. When we talk about Hadoop, please consider that we are talking about those huge server rooms where um, the commodity hardwares are there. See, you can just consider it as one single box. So there will be racks, right? And on each rack, multiple such hardwares will be there. And each component contains some memory in it and some processing power in it, right? So this is a server room basically. So if electricity comes, we can see the pictures online as well. So there will be racks of servers, right? And each of this server will contain some cores in it and some memory in it, right? So it is absolutely going to be a very cheap and still a very safe system that we are going to deal with now, right? So this is about Hadoop. Also, I think in this week's lab you will learn possibly how to install Hadoop. Let me tell you, when you install it in your computer or in your laptop, and if you are on dual boot, mostly each of the daemon that gets created here takes 1 GB of RAM, right? So if you don't have enough processing power, probably it can slow down your machine, right? Of course, there are some online solutions as well, but that you will have to explore. Personally, I have not explored it much, because the kind of feeling, the actual working, you can understand only if you have it in your own system. On third party, you won't have that kind of control. And but these days, many people are also going for it, so you may explore that option as well. That is up to you, right? So I repeat, Hadoop has two components, right? Processing and storage. Processing is MapReduce. Storage is this HDFS, Hadoop Distributed File System, right? So this Hadoop distributed file system also follows master slave architecture, as well as this MapReduce also follows this master slave architecture, right? So I just wanted you to explain master slave architecture. Now we will talk about each one of them in terms of HDFS and MapReduce, right? Let me try to download the content in my phone, and if I can share, that would be good. Please give me a minute. All of you are able to see my screen? Okay, great. So this is what I was talking about, right? So this is a master node here, and these are slave nodes. And now you can see the metadata has been changed, right? The metadata is changed. So John now has A as a main project and C as a backup project. James now has B as um, a main project and D as a backup project. Bob now has C as a main project, B as a backup project, and Alice D as a main project and A as a backup project. So now project manager is a smart guy, right? And is at peace now because all the four projects are distributed so that if the main team leader who is working on it actively also, if not available, it is taken care of. So the situation is under control now, right? So this is this is the master slave architecture that Hadoop is following, right? So if we try to put it in the computer system scenario, we have a master node and we have multiple slave nodes which are connected, right? So this master node takes works from slave node, and the master node basically does the job of managing the slave nodes, right? So Hadoop has two core components as we have seen: the distributed file system, which is HDFS, and MapReduce, which is the processing framework, right? Now we are going to focus more on HDFS today, right? So HDFS, full form Hadoop Distributed File System, has three core components, right? So which are they? The first one is a name node, the second one is a data node, and the third one is a secondary name node, right? So these are three main components of HDFS. I repeat: name node, data node, and secondary name node. Now, here, as I said, it follows the master slave architecture, right? So, name node here is a master node. Sorry, name node here is a master node, and data node here is a slave node, right? Now, we have something called a secondary name node also. Can you imagine what secondary name node might be doing? Can you imagine what might be the duty of a secondary name node? Okay, so see, many times people who are new to Hadoop, they would feel like secondary name node is a backup node, right? And yes, they feel like it is a backup node, and it takes over whenever name node fails. So then name node, if goes down, secondary name node takes over, right? So many people think this, and that's the reason many times this is the question asked in interviews many times, right? That what is the duty of secondary name node? So let me tell you, the name node duty is not only of taking over, and actually it doesn't take over, right? So then what secondary name node does, I hope all of you are very much clear with name node and data node, right? Name node is the master node, and uh, data node is the slave node, right? We have secondary name node here. So what is its duty, right? So it is also very similar to name node, but the main thing, the main duty of secondary name node is of checkpointing, right? I repeat, the duty, the main duty of secondary name node is of checkpointing. Oh, I did not explain this slide, right? Name node and data node. Okay, let me explain you this slide first. It is being little difficult from phone, but anyways. So this is a name node and there are data nodes and there is the secondary name node. So name node is given red color and green color is given to secondary name node, right? So they here some duties are listed. So I would like to read them. So the duty of a name node is it maintains and manages data node, as I said, right? Then it records the metadata. So what was the metadata in case of a project manager? So project manager had a metadata that these TLs are working on these projects. Similarly, in this case, the metadata is information about data blocks, location of the blocks stored, the size of the files, permissions, hierarchy, etc. So basically, right now we are just talking about HDFS, right? We are just talking about file system. So what is it? It is a storage. So for storage, you have distributed environment. So which data is stored where? This is the information, how it is stored, how it is distributed. We are going to talk about everything in detail. Right now, you just understand that which data is stored where, this information is there at name node, right? Also, another responsibility is it receives heartbeat signals, right? And block report from all the data nodes. You can see the heart symbols are drawn over here, right? So the reason is, as a name node, I should be aware that which data nodes are currently active, right? Because sometimes some data nodes fails, and if they fails, I should be having, as a manager, as a name node, I should be having its information. So continuously, the duty of this data node is to send heartbeat signals. So name node receives this heartbeat signals, right? And uh, for from some data node, if I don't receive heartbeat signal for some period, I assume that that particular data node is down for some reason, right? So that is the main duty of name node, right? To be aware of the current situation. So it has this responsibility as well, receives heartbeat signals from the data node and block report from all the data nodes, right? What is this block and all? Because previously also data block came. I'm just going to discuss it soon, right? And then what is the data node? Data nodes are slave daemons actually, right? It stores the actual data. So the name node, the duty is only to manage data nodes. So where the actual data gets stored, it is actually stored at data nodes. Right? So when the read write requests come, right, it will first of all go to master only, because nobody knows where the actual data lies. Only master node knows about this. So the request first of all goes to name node, and then from name node, it gets redirected to a particular data node where the actual data lies. Hello, am I audible? Okay. So everyone is with me for data node and name node. See, if you have any doubt, please don't keep it in your mind, right? Be open. And you can, if you don't want to unmute and ask, you can put your questions in the chat box as well, right? But be clear with the framework, because you will have to deal with many daemons, and also if you don't know the actual working of them, it would be quite difficult and complicated for you. We don't want to complicate things, right? So let's be very much clear. So if you have any doubt about anything, right, please do ask your doubts, or you can write it in the chat box, right? Okay. So the two components we have understood very well, right? Name node and data node. Now, talking about secondary name node. So, as I said, many people assumes that, see, if data node fails, who takes over? Another data node, right? So, there are multiple data nodes. So, if some particular data node fails, another data node takes over its duty.
So that is okay. But if name node fails, what happens? So many people think that secondary name node takes over, but no, that is not the actual scenario. Secondary name node helps the name node to take over, and anyway, if it can't, some another node can become a name node. Now, please understand that we have commodity hardwares and all are same, having same configuration. So it is not that the name node should be having higher processing power. The data node, if does not have good processing power, it is okay. No, that is not the case, right? Here, any node, so the duties are given randomly. So any node can act as a data node and any node can act as a name node, right? So usually we keep it fixed, but that is not the case, right? We can be very much dynamic in this, right? So so then what secondary name node is doing, right? So the main duty, as I said, is of checkpointing. Now what is checkpointing? Let us try to understand this. So checkpointing is a process of combining edit logs with fs image. Now, what are these things, right? The alien words. Let's try to understand this. So, you can just consider that edit log and FS image, both of them are files, simple files, right? But edit log usually resides in RAM and FS image resides in disk. Now, we all know that if some problem occurs, we will be able to retain FS image, but recent edit log, which is there in RAM, might go, right? So we may at max lose that thing, right? So these are two files, right? What it stores recent changes in RAM. So what recent changes? So whatever data read write occurs, right? All these recent changes are stored in edit log, and where edit log is stored is it is stored in RAM, right? What is fs image? So fs image resides in disk, and it stores all the changes in disk. So which means that since the time the um, HDFS has been started, whatever changes are there, all those changes are there in FS image. So usually, which one will be of bigger size, FS image or edit log? Exactly, FS image, right? Because edit log only stores recent changes, whereas FS image stores all the changes, right? So checkpointing basically is a process of combining edit log with FS image. This is the process of combining edit log with FS image. So what happens whenever, see, name node also will have these two files, and secondary name node also will have these two files. So what happens? Whatever changes occurs, it goes in the first edit log, which is written under name node, right? Then this edit log is transferred to secondary name node after some interval. And usually, what is this interval? You can just see it over here. Checkpointing happens periodically, and default value is 1 hour. So after every hour, the checkpointing process occurs, right? See, in Hadoop, everything is configurable, which means that you can for sure change this default value. But usually, we don't do it, right? As a learner, we don't do it, right? But then when you work on real world projects, it depends on the requirements, right? So the recent changes are there in this edit log, right? And then this edit log is copied to the secondary name node. Now, secondary name node, once receives the new edit log, it will just add it to the FS image. So what will happen? The new FS image will be generated, right? So the new FS image then will be again copied to the original name node. So original name node also contains the full changes, all the changes, right? So I repeat, at every after the end of every 1 hour, edit log and FS image are copied to the secondary name node. Actually, FS image is copied only for the first time, but then later on secondary name node will already have it. But yes, for some reason, if secondary name node also goes down and lost FS image, then it can get it from the name node, right? So this is dynamic behavior. So whatever recent changes which has been done within last hour, they are there in edit log of name node. So after every 1 hour, edit log is copied to secondary name node, which gets added to FS image. And then the final version of FS image gets created, which is then copied to the name node back again, right? Now, you will say what will happen? See, checkpointing occurs, right? So, when the checkpointing is occurring, actually, we have already given this particular edit log, the first edit log, and assume checkpointing takes 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, right? So, for those 5 minutes also, are we available? No, we are always available, right? So, within these 5 minutes, whatever changes are coming, they gets copied to the new edit log, which you can see edit log new. So this is a temporary edit log which is created during the checkpointing, and then again it gets copied to the original edit log, right? So second time when the edit when the checkpointing occurs, these changes also will be backed up in the disk in FS image, right? So this is the actual procedure of checkpointing. All of you are clear about checkpointing? Any doubt about checkpointing? It takes a lot of time in switching. Anyways, basically, this is how secondary name node helps. So the duty of secondary name node should be very much clear, right? The main duty is checkpointing, right? Which happens every hour, right? So I hope I've made a point clear. कोई ना हजी पण डाउट होय प्लीज डू लेट मी नो. So now is a question. Let me raise a question here. Why secondary name node is doing this? Name node cannot do this? Yes, it can. So then why we are taking another node to do this? Any guesses? See, basically, what secondary name node is doing in checkpointing, it is just combining edit log and FS image. And both of them are already there at name node. It is just patching it from name node and then combining. So then why another node is there to do so? Any guesses on this?
Okay, let me ask another question. Okay, Rahul's answer is quite near. So basically, who handles all read write requests? When you want to read or write something from HDFS, right? Who handles all these requests? Yes, exactly. Name node, right? You don't go to any other node because no node knows where the data which you want is available. So basically, it is the name node where all these things are known, right? It has this metadata. So all read write requests are being handled by the name node, and name node also handles all the data nodes. It gets receives heartbeat signals and all. So if I talk about the availability of a name node, right? If I talk about the availability of a name node, we want it to be available always. Yes or no? If name node is not available, what will happen? The read write requests will not at all be satisfied, right? So it seems like the entire cluster is down, because only if name node is down, then also it seems like entire cluster is down. Why? Because it is only the name node that handles everything, and if that node itself is not available, it feels like the entire cluster is down, though that is not the case, right? So we don't want to overburden name node basically. So basically, to increase the availability of a name node, right, we have the concept of a secondary name node. So we don't want to overburden name node. We want it to be available for all the requests all the time. So secondary name node is the one who will be doing this merging job, because see, this merging job is not also a little heavy job. Why? Because it combines edit logs and fs image. Now edit log will be a quite light file, but fs image will be the heavy file, right? Because it contains all the changes, recent, not only recent changes, it contains all the changes about the data since the cluster has been started. So it might be a little heavy file. So when you go for merging it, it becomes a little tedious job there. Right now, if name node itself goes on doing this, it will become unavailable to the read write requests. So that actually spoils the availability of a cluster, which we don't want. Right. So to handle this particular case, there is a concept of secondary name node. So I hope all of you are with me for name node, data node, and secondary name node. The duties of all three are clear to everyone. Great. So you will see these as the actual daemons, right? When you will install Hadoop. So I'll maybe talk more on this and more on MapReduce in the next lecture, right? So till then, you may also try to read some more material